much of myself. Discomforting the privileged in the name of wholeness, in the name of holy discomfort, in the name of holy disruption. I'm too much of myself to be complicit. I know better. I lift my light, shake loose the comforted, disrupt the stale status quo of a harmful culture. I know better. Disrupt the status quo with words, with actions, some mumbled into my breathing, some simple as forgiveness, some hurled as curses and cries, some as complicated as love, some woven as tightly as a shield, some in community, some gentle as a prayer, some all on my own. I'm too much of myself. I bring my sharp edges, my holy anger, my holy love for the interconnected holiness, wholeness of it all. I disrupt the casual oppression, the covert slight, refuse the passive-aggressive deflection, refute the excuse of racist tradition. No discomfort of the oppressor matters here. Black lives matter here. Indigenous sovereignty matters here. The margins are the center here. I know better. I do better. Sometimes I build small bridges just so between people. Sometimes I draw closer to disconnected circles until their new Venn diagrams create community. Dismantle harmful cultures, allow evolution, provide for the discomforted, shine bright, you know better, be explicit, together we are never too much. Disrupt in the name of holy wholeness, discomfort in the name of holy wholeness, bring all of ourselves in the name of holy, of wholeness. Please join us in a moment of silent contemplation as we prepare for our time together.
Good morning. I'm Beth Calvert, and I'll be your service leader for today. And I've been bothering and loving this crazy community for close to 30 years now. I need my 30-year pin. Today is the second service in our series about Unitarian Universalist sources. We're a religious path that does not have a specific sacred text. Instead, we name the many and diverse sources of inspiration and wisdom that can guide us on our journey of life. The second source is, quote, words and deeds of prophetic people which challenge us to confront powers and structures of evil with justice, compassion, and the transforming power of love, which connects very directly to our own vision statement. We will light our chalice together by speaking these words together, printed in the bulletin and on the screen. We work together as a church to transform ourselves, our community, and our world by sharing love, pursuing justice, and seeking wonder.
Good morning, y'all. Hi. So today's story is not just a story that I'm going to tell, but that we're all going to work together to tell. We have two volunteers up here who have been practicing, and they're going to read their parts. I'm so excited to have Audrey and Katie helping us with the story today. But the rest of you all have a part too. You're going to be a pack of dogs. Does that sound like fun? So when I point at you like this, you're going to bark like dogs. Yes, we're very excited, I can tell. So let's give it a try. Ready? That is excellent. Now, this is very important. We're going to bark only when I point. Okay? Okay, all right. So here's the story. Once upon a time, there lived a queen who cared for nobody but herself. She had grown rich from the high taxes she had forced her people to pay, while they had become poorer and poorer. She lived in a gorgeous palace, while the poor people who built it for her still lived in thatched huts and tumble-down hovels. The queen's table was always heaped with the best, most delicious foods, while most of her people only had one plain meal a day, and sometimes not even that. But the heartless queen did not care.
I just don't care.
One day, a hunter came to the palace gate, intending to teach the heartless queen a lesson.
Greetings, Queen. I was hoping to visit you here in your fine palace, and I brought my pack of dogs with me.
Oh, I just love dogs, and hunting too. Please come in. You are most welcome.
The dogs were quite extraordinary. When they barked, their bark was like the roar of thunder. The first time they barked, awful noise shook the walls of the palace and frightened the queen and all her court. If they had stopped with one or two barks, the matter might have been forgotten. But again and again, their fierce barking shook the palace and the earth itself. Before long, there was no resting between barks. Nobody in the palace could hear themselves talk. The queen was desperate and sent for the hunter.
Why do your dogs make such deafening noise?
The dogs are hungry.
Someone feed those dogs right now.
A big plate full of meat was brought in and given to the dogs. In almost no time at all, the pack of dogs had licked the plate clean. And then a second plate full of meat was brought. This the dogs disposed of just as quickly as the first. And then over and over the plate was filled, and over the dogs ate the whole plateful and began barking loudly as ever. The queen was getting angry.
You and your dogs must leave the palace at once. We cannot endure the deafening noise any longer.
Your Majesty, we have been sent to you by a higher purpose. We are here to stay.
The queen was frightened. She grasped the arms of her chair and stared at the hunter. The queen was not accustomed to have anyone speak to her in this manner.
Will nothing satisfy the hunger of your enormous pack of dogs?
Nothing that is easy for you to give. Your Majesty, there are people in this country who are eating all the food and who are not sharing it with those who do the work in the field to make the food grow. As a result, there are people who are always hungry. These dogs feel the hunger of every person in the country who does not have enough food to eat. As long as even one person is hungry, the dogs will be hungry and keep on barking.
On hearing this, the queen was even more frightened than ever. It had never entered her thoughts that she had been doing anything wrong. She thought that the people of her country were simply supposed to always do exactly what she wanted. It had never occurred to her that a queen should think of the happiness of anyone except herself. She was now angry from her head to her feet, inside and outside. Either she would go mad hearing the continuous barking of these dogs, or else something would have to be done, and that very quickly. So she called her advisors together and asked them,
What should I do?
I wonder, what do you all think the queen should do? Does anyone have any thoughts? Let's give the kids a chance first. But I might have to call on you. Does any young person have a thought about what the queen should do to get the dogs to stop barking?
Feed them.
Feed them? Feed who?
The dogs.
Okay, who else maybe should we feed as well as the dogs? We don't know? Karis, what do you think?
Oh, I was just going to say I think that she should buy everyone earmuffs so the dog.
That's a great solution. I'm so glad I called on you. What do you think? We should feed the people. I think that's what the advisors actually told the queen. The wise advisors returned to the queen and told her that she should feed everyone in the country. They had to shout, of course, because that pack of dogs was still barking. I bet they wished earmuffs had been invented. And the queen hesitated no longer.
Put all the servants on the palace grounds to work at once. Go to the storerooms and collect all the food and give them to all the people in the country who are hungry. Give them generously all these foods and keep on giving food until not a single person in the land is hungry.
All right. The advisors hurried away to do as their queen commanded. Soon there was shouting and laughing, hustling and bustling all over the palace. In fact, the royal servants made so much noise they could barely even hear the barking dogs. Presently, a long line of carts piled high with bags and baskets of food rolled out through the palace gate. All day long and day after day, the carts kept going until they had gone to every village in the land and until food was taken to every house where someone was hungry. At last the day came when the pack of dogs stopped barking and laid down quietly by the queen's chair. The dogs were satisfied. All the people inside the palace grounds were happy and at peace in their minds. Everywhere in the land, the people were content. For the next few years, the dogs stayed by the queen's side to be sure the queen never reverted to her old ways. And a few times the dogs would bark just to remind the queen about justice. And each time the queen remembered the very important lesson she had learned. Finally, the dogs were convinced that the queen truly understood the meaning of justice. One morning, they simply got up, walked out of the palace, and went to bark for justice in a new land. The end. Let's give a hand for our queen and our hunter. There are times in a congregation's life when they look back with gratitude and remember the ministers who have served them well. Those who have made the most meaningful, positive impacts are often honored with the status of Minister Emeriti. This honorary title recognizes a retired minister's long and meritorious service and formalizes a new kind of relationship between the retired minister, the current minister, and the congregation. This is the highest honor a congregation can give a retired minister. Many years before my path to ministry brought me here, Reverend Jacqueline Luck served this congregation in ministry. She provided stability and worked to rebuild trust following a difficult time in the congregation's history. She was known for her excellent pastoral care skills. She retired to Louisiana, where she spends extensive time with her grandchildren and teaching the occasional Unitarian Universalist history class, and she is our first Minister Emerita. After Jacqueline, Reverend Jeff Briere took up the mantle as a developmental minister, leading our congregation in updating mission, vision, and covenant, working with the board on governance, creating a new culture around worship, navigating the difficult initial stages of the pandemic, and supporting my growth in ministry as an intern here. That's a lot to do in 5 years. At this spring's annual meeting, our congregation voted to confer the status of Minister Emeritus upon Jeff Briere. Congregation, say your part. Jeff Briere, we are grateful for your service to our church in a time of transition. Your dedication to our progress as a liberal congregation and your attention to detail helped us through our time between ministries. You are happy to honor you and your service by conferring on you the title of Minister Emeritus. We hope to enjoy times of fellowship with you in the future.
Tiffany and I have committed as colleagues to support each other in life and in ministry. I support her ministry in my actions and in my words. That is to say, Tiffany is the minister and I am the has-been minister.
And I support Jeff in his retirement, calling upon him in only the most challenging of times, mindful that his ministry here is finished, and he is now focused on relaxation.
And floundering around searching for ways to be relevant.
And driving Kate crazy.
Retirement for me has been an ongoing search for what I am supposed to do next. Part of that includes writing a column for the Johnson City Press and another one for the Greenville Sun. I also am helping to organize a statewide network of liberal religious voices, because God knows there's not enough of them. And I joined the Media Corps in support of Planned Parenthood. I'm happy to engage in these modest efforts as the Minister Emeritus of this church.
On behalf of Holston Valley Unitarian Universalist Church, we welcome you to learn, to worship, and to strive for a better world with us. And we gladly affirm you as Minister Emeritus of this church.
Thanks very much for this honor, and I humbly accept it.
In the fires of change. Don't worry about the details, and only the truth will remain. I got a front porch solution that will ease any confusion or pain. And it starts with the 4 or 3 or 2 and some melody, harmony, and a sweet refrain. And it starts with a whisper from somewhere deep underground. And it's guaranteed to get louder. So don't be afraid to make a sound. And start revolution. Let it begin as you breathe in. Human evolution is what we are most interested in. So gather up your stories. Let them fly away in a flurry. the sun, you will change into something new. And so, revolution, let it begin as you breathe in. Human evolution is what we are most interested in. And before she left, she softly spoke through the veil of tears, the silence she broke. We too are sacred breath made of bone and smoke. And it starts with a whisper from somewhere deep underground. And it's guaranteed to get louder. So don't be afraid to make a sound. 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 We too are sacred breath made of bone and smoke.
We breathe in love, and we breathe out love. We breathe in hope, and we breathe out hope. We breathe in joy, and we breathe out joy. And we are here for each other as a community in the sacred moments of joy and sorrow. If you'd like to share a joy or sorrow in person, please use these candle cards that are located on the back table. And if you'd like to share a joy or a concern from a distance, please email minister@hvууc.org. We light a candle for Linda G's nephew, Eddie. He had a quadruple bypass surgery on Friday. Eddie was moved from ICU to a step-down room during the night last night. Linda says, "My family and I are grateful for your prayers and well wishes." We light a candle for Bisexual Visibility Day, which is coming up this week. The visibility piece is especially important to this part of the LGBTQ community, which often can be overlooked and misunderstood. And a candle of deep sorrow from Courtney. Today is the 5th anniversary of her younger brother Liam's death. He was 7 years old and is dearly loved and missed.
May
What do you all think of when you hear the word prophetic? Are we talking about Miss Cleo's psychic hotline here? Or some wild-eyed mystic who lives in a cave somewhere eating insects and making indecipherable proclamations? What do these things have to do with the second source of Unitarian Universalism? Are these the prophetic people whose words and deeds are supposed to infuse our lives with meaning and give us an ethical grounding for navigating the big questions in life? Thankfully, no. The word prophetic means something entirely different for a Bible and religions nerd like me. In scholarly studies of ancient scriptures, we go beyond biblical literalism to look at how this piece of literature reflects the culture and context of its time and its people. And in the Hebrew scriptures, prophets were not actually about the future. They were about speaking truth to power in the present. They spoke for a higher power, or an ethical framework, if you prefer, that was bigger than the earthly human structures of power. Liberal biblical scholar John Briere says the primary role of the prophet was to challenge and counterbalance Israel's kings and priests. Speaking for this higher power and purpose claims an authority above crown and throne. It was the only way to hold kings accountable. This sort of prophetic existed to criticize the unjust behaviors and policies of the state on behalf of the people. The prophet Jeremiah said, "Do what is just and right. Rescue the oppressed from the power of the oppressor. Don't exploit or mistreat the refugee, the orphan, and the widow. Don't spill the blood of innocents in this place." The prophet Isaiah said, "Doom to those who would pronounce wicked decrees and keep writing harmful laws to deprive the needy of their rights and to rob the poor among my people of justice, to make widows their loot, to steal from orphans." Honestly, when I read these, it makes me wonder how many of these lawmakers that claim to love the Bible have actually read it. For us as Unitarian Universalists, these are the origins of the idea prophetic, a fascinating jumping off point for a religious tradition that has its beginning in two Christian heresies. But we don't stop there. Our higher authorities that invite us to challenge oppressive forces may or may not be as concrete as the source of Jeremiah and Isaiah's prophetic authority. Our ways of determining what's ethical might come from the Humanist Manifesto, the sacred text of our choice, Kant, Bentham, Rawls, or the wisdom of our kindergarten teacher. But these prophetic words often line up with each other no matter where we find them. Care for widows and orphans. Don't rob the poor. Don't write laws to line your own pockets. That's one of the great things about being Unitarian Universalist to me. Even with different starting points, we often end at similar ethical conclusions. And one of those conclusions is to speak up when things aren't right. Bayard Rustin was the first person to call this prophetic work speaking truth to power. Rustin was a black, gay, Quaker pacifist who was a key player in the American Civil Rights Movement. He was an influential advisor behind the scenes, unable to be the prophetic one in the limelight himself because no one was listening to gay black men in the 1950s. But he was on Martin Luther King Jr.'s staff, and Reverend Dr. King himself refused to dismiss Bayard Rustin, even when his identity as a gay man became widely known. Rustin's prophetic words influenced King deeply. Being a Quaker, Rustin's appeal to higher authority does take the shape of God. He says, when the will of God and the will of the state conflict, I am compelled to follow the will of God. Now, for some of us skeptics, naming God can bring this prophetic function, this prophetic source into murky waters. Many of us know too well how anyone can use the will of God or God says as a way to further whatever agenda they wish. But our second source does not stop merely at the words and deeds of prophetic people. It shows us what to look for to identify those words and deeds that are truly prophetic. It says words and deeds of prophetic people which challenge us to confront powers and structures of evil with justice, compassion, and the transforming power of love. We can and should test that which claims to be prophetic by its content. These words challenge us to confront powers of structure and evil. But what is evil? I think there's something within us that instinctually knows the answer to that question. I don't know if we're born with this instinct or if it's something we've learned as a society by trial and error, but when we see someone big and strong harming someone who's smaller than them, we know it's evil. We know it's evil for the queen of our story to feast in her palace while the people starve. We know racism, homophobia, and sexism are evil. We know the wealthy people waging war and destroying the environment so that they can get even wealthier is evil. And so the prophetic people of this world challenge us with their words and their deeds to confront the evils with justice, compassion, and the transforming power of love. It's the most challenging calling in the world. Is it possible to love the world into a more just place? I don't know yet, because I'm not done trying yet. For folks who are experiencing grave injustices personally, compassion for themselves can become the higher power that leads them to challenge systems that are pushing them out. Judy Heumann, the mother of the disability rights movement, is a great example. Born in 1947, Judy contracted polio at a young age and had to use a wheelchair to get around from the age of 18 months forward. Her parents were encouraged to put her in an institution, which was usually done with disabled people back then. But Judy's Jewish parents had fled from Nazi Germany, where disabled people were systematically erased, and her parents were having none of it. Judy was denied access to public schools at first. They called her a fire hazard. Her parents joined together with the parents of other disabled kids to challenge the schools and create opportunities for their children. She got a bachelor's in 1969 and a master's in 1975. And yet, the New York City Board of Education denied her application for a teaching license because she could not walk. That's what was on the paperwork. Judy found a lawyer and had a friend in the New York Times, and finally got her teaching license. She lived the truth taught by the hunter's dogs. The queen doesn't do justice because she wants to, but because the dogs are loud. She learned the power of prophetic witness. Do we all need to bark one more time to get it out of our system? Let's do it. Let's bark one more time. Awesome. Awesome. Right? How can we talk about speaking out if we're not allowed to speak out? She learned the power of prophetic witness and founded a disability rights organization run by and for disabled people. She led a massive sit-in to get Section 504 implemented. She co-founded the World Institution on Disability, and she played a huge role in getting the Americans with Disabilities Act passed. Reflecting on that success, she later said, "Our time has come. After nearly 20 years of protesting, we had created what I believe to be the strongest, most comprehensive civil rights legislation for disability in the world." Judy is a prophetic person who changed the world with the transforming power of love. When the world keeps blocking your way to every access point, love for yourself can be that higher power. It's easy to think of these second source prophetic people as the big heroes that we all know, like Martin Luther King Jr., Dorothy Day, Malala Yousafzai, and now Judith Heumann. But anyone can speak truth to power. Last year, I had the pleasure of meeting a local prophetic person, though I imagine if she heard me saying that, she would raise an eyebrow and smile wryly. You'll see Carlene Claybaker at Pride and at reproductive justice protests, even now, well into her 70s. She was at nursing school before Roe versus Wade passed in 1973, and during that time, she saw a 12-year-old girl and a 13-year-old girl die from attempting their own abortions, desperate and fearful. Her higher authority was her oath as a healer, and it compelled her to do whatever she could to see people gain access to life-saving health care. She will speak prophetic words occasionally, but it is really her prophetic deeds that speak to the world of justice and love that we all yearn for. Remember, it's prophetic words and deeds. The truth is that many of you here are already prophetic people whose words and deeds both challenge me to do better and give me hope for the future. Our own Courtney Johnson is a well-known disability advocate who is serving on the State Council of Developmental Disabilities and educates thousands through her blog titled Just Keep Stemming. Cindy Huss and Rise are doing everything they can to increase local access to responsible and inclusive sexuality education. Noel Marshall and Bob Warner are working with the Appalachian Peace Education Center and the Irwin Citizens Awareness Network to protect our waterways from nuclear contamination. and Olivia Chaffin made the national news, bringing awareness to the role of palm oil in rainforest deforestation, doing prophetic work before she's even officially an adult. And many of you are doing your part through organizations that I don't get to mention here, as I'm doing my best to walk the fine line between the prophetic and the political. But you all know who you are, and you all know what you're doing. And you know what? Now that I've thought about all of you and your prophetic words and deeds, maybe being prophetic is about the future. But it's not about predicting the future. It's about building the future. How are we being called to build the future? Where might our prophetic words and deeds come into play? We've seen from countless examples today of prophetic people near and far that there are a multitude of areas that can use our passion and our commitment. What is calling us? What is calling you personally? That's our question for the week, and it is a big one. May we have the grace and the courage to just keep on asking it until clarity comes.
In many ways, Nelson Mandela is the embodiment of the way a person can have a prophetic voice with both words and deeds. These chalice extinguishing words come from his biography, Long Walk to Freedom. I have walked that long road to freedom. I have tried not to falter. I have made missteps along the way. But I have discovered the secret that after climbing a great hill, one only finds that there are many more hills to climb. I've taken a moment here to rest, to steal a view of the glorious vista that surrounds me, to look back on the distance I have come. But I can only rest for a moment, for with freedom come responsibilities, and I dare not linger, for my long walk is not ended.
Hi, I'm Greg Kramer. I'm your stewardship trustee. If you ever want to know who's on the board, we all wear these green name tags. So if you ever have a question about the board, please see a person with a green name tag, and they hopefully can answer your questions. The service auction is our biggest fundraiser outside of our pledge drive. And the service auction is more about adding pizzazz to the church than it means about paying salaries for our wonderful minister and all her staff. It's about what can we do else to make this church a better place to live and have fellowship together. I myself offer several services at the auction. I offer 8 hours of handyman work. End up doing a lot of chainsawing doing that, but also I offer for sale spaghetti and meatball sauce. It's from a childhood mentor I got the recipe from. So it makes me feel very special as I make this because of how important this person was in my life. The other thing I offer is gluten-free brownie. You can also have those. And it's up to y'all. What's going to happen soon is we're going to have a website come up with information that you can sign up. You can get your paddle when you have the live auction here. We'll have a silent auction on the tables in the Fred Ballroom. So there'll be a chance for you to both do the live auction and the service auction. We'll have several sessions of that on November 4th when we have the auction. It's a fun time to be here, and so we'll be advertising soon. Think of things that you can do, you know. One of the things I like the most about the service auction is people who offer interesting foreign meals. And so it's something I really, really enjoy going to. We have a variety of game nights. Of course, there's Kim Ray's famous murder mysteries. Oh, man. Yeah, you get to dress up and act out, and you have a lot of fun. So there's a lot of really good things that are happening at our auction, and so think about what you can offer, think about what you can come and do. Thank you very much.
May justice lead us to the calling of this moment. May wonder meet us right where we're at. May we discover our collaborators and our companions, and may love guide us on our journey of transformation. Blessed be, amen, and go in peace.